The first step in making yogurt is to make sure that you have a rapid boil. I put this pan on the highest setting, and then what I will do is I will take the second smaller pan that I mentioned in the previous video, and I'll set it right inside. Then what I'll do is I'll take my milk and pour it in. Now what they say is that you should be careful of the temperature. On my website you can find more information on the temperature for yogurt, but the bottom line is I couldn't get the milk to get incredibly hot. I think 180 degrees for pasteurized milk, and then it has to be a bit lower for raw milk if you want to maintain the properties of raw milk. However, I can't seem to get the milk hot enough, or my temperature gauge was wrong, so I go by look. So I'll show you what I look for. Generally, once I stick it in, I'll set the timer for 12 minutes. The timer just went off. We put it on for 12 minutes. And the important thing here is to not touch your yogurt. Don't start stirring it. Don't do anything. Let the film that develops on the top develop, because it helps keep the heat in the milk. I have steamed it until you see there's some bubbles right around the edge there. And there's some here inside. That's what you want. 180 degrees is when the milk begins to froth. So we have some substantial frothing, which is good. So I found that about 12 minutes works really well for me. I'll go ahead and turn off the steam. And then I'm going to take this and I'm going to put the milk, the pot, into a cool bath of water. I basically ran the cold water from my faucet. I live in Colorado, so the water's pretty cool when it comes out. Basically, I have about, just a couple of inches of water in there. I'm going to set the pan in there so it starts to cool. This is a critical part in the yogurt making process. So we're going to carry this over and set it down. Okay. What's going to happen is that the milk is going to start cooling fairly rapidly. So I'll usually set the timer for about 2 minutes. And the idea is to not have the milk steaming anymore. And what's on top here, you can remove that, but you can kind of see that there's a film that's developed. And I'll usually just skim that off because otherwise it kind of makes chunks in the yogurt. So I'll usually just kind of throw that in. It's okay if it gets on this side, it's not a big deal. So I'll let that sit, and then we will use our thermometer, and you want it to get to about 110 or as close as possible to it. If it's a little bit lower, it's not a big deal, but you don't want it to sit for very long at a low temperature because then it will not turn into the yogurt. I've had that happen before. So the next segment you'll see is putting it into the container. While we're waiting for the milk to cool, we're going to go ahead and get the starter yogurt into our container. This is the same jar that I poured the milk out of. I usually will measure out a quart. I have a gallon of milk, so I'll measure out a quart in here and then I'll pour it into the pot. But I don't waste a lot of time cleaning things, so I'll just use that same jar. And what I'll do is I'll take a large spoon, about a tablespoon. You'll want about 2 tablespoons of yogurt for every quart, and you don't want to put any more in there. And the reason is the bacteria won't have enough space to do its job, and it won't turn out really well. So just a couple of tablespoons is all you need. And you can see that I'm not using a measuring spoon. It is not that critical that you have the precise amount, but you want to have about that amount. And then what I will do is I will put this in here, and I will pour the milk once it's cooled into this jar. The milk has achieved the desired temperature. So it's a little bit under 100 degrees right now. It's okay if it's not 110 perfectly. I've already drained the bath so that it doesn't cool the milk any further while I'm talking to you. As you can see here, I have the jar with the starter yogurt in the bottom, and this is just to help me make sure I don't splatter milk everywhere. And this is the plugged-in warming yogurt maker. So here's the milk. I didn't do anything. I didn't even stir it. You can stir the yogurt if you would like, but I simply just poured the milk in. The starter yogurt's at the bottom, and it will do its thing. So I go ahead and cover it. I ordered separate plastic lids. You normally get metal lids. I don't like to put metal with fermenting items. Sometimes it can affect the taste and the function of the bacteria, so I usually use a plastic top. And then I simply put the yogurt in here. And then about 10 hours later, 8 to 10 hours later, 10 hours will give you a more tart yogurt, 8 hours will give you a slightly sweeter yogurt. So the yogurt's done. It's been about 8 hours. You can tell your yogurt's done when you can see that there are some solids here and there's a little bit of liquid around it. And you're done. So you can just put it in the fridge and make sure you keep a little bit extra for the next batch of yogurt, and make sure you mix in the whey which is the runny stuff, mix that in before you eat it. Enjoy!